appreciate you guys coming out for the introduction of JB Bickerstaff to Detroit. I'll say a few words. I'm not long-winded, but today's about JB, but he's been here working already. So I put him to work right away after we came to an agreement. I don't even know if you were contracted yet before we got him working. And our first thing we did was go out to LA and San Diego, I should say, and meet with Tobias on July 1st. So I got him to work right away, and he's been an incredible partner already. So, but I'm going to say a couple things about our process and about what intrigued us about JB before handing the microphone over to him. Obviously, as you guys know, this has been an incredibly compressed time period for myself and the staff, with preparation for draft, free agency, and then a coaching search as well. So we started the coaching search about a week from the draft, and we were doing all three processes at the same time. And so he was incredibly helpful in that. What was it? I give you about 12 hours to come in after I asked you and called you. I think I called him, 11? I think I called him late one night and I said, hey, we want you to come in for an interview. And he said, well, I'm leaving in 2 days. I said, well, can you come in tomorrow? And he actually, I think, got in a car right then and started driving. And we were able to meet with him the next day, which was incredibly helpful. Spent a lot of time with him. And I think some of the things that we were looking for in our next head coach with our front office staff was somebody who had leadership qualities, great communication skills, wanted to collaborate with us in terms of building a culture and environment where our players could reach their potential, but also was a place of positivity, especially coming off the difficult season last year for our players. And I think our thoughts and our vision in terms of developing that aligned after we had a lot of conversations, not only with myself, but with our entire staff. I think his ability to develop and have a passion for, when I say develop, I mean not only his staff, but also our young players, and be passionate about being on the court every day, really connecting with them off the court as well, and having them understand the importance of not only them taking the day-to-day steps to get better, but also being team first and having that mindset. So I just think in the time period and the time frame of us coming together through the process, we talked with 3 or 4 coaches that I think all were capable of being leaders here and being head coaches. But for us at this time, we felt JB was the right coach and the right leader, and just from the things that I've talked about, really separated himself for us at this time. So I'm not going to say anything else, but that's kind of some background that led up. I made him jump through some hoops that were just kind of crazy, but we don't really have to talk about that. But the one thing the final thing that really emanated with us was just his passion, is his desire to be here in Detroit and be the next Pistons head coach and the next leader here. So we're very happy and fortunate to have JB Bickerstaff as our next head coach here in Detroit. So I'll leave it up to you, brother. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Again, similar to Trajan, not a lot of words, but you guys have questions. I'm open to them, but I'm excited to be here, excited to be, a part of this. What this job comes down to for me as being a partner and an opportunity to build something special, build something unique. And I'm looking forward to it. I believe in the people that we have running the show. I believe in their courage. I believe in the young talent that we have here. And then, the shrewd moves that we made this offseason to get some veteran players to come along and help lead our young guys. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it and already having fun getting to work. So I'll take your questions from there.
JB, James Edwards from The Athletic, welcome.
Thank you.
You've obviously had success as a coach in this league. This team, as Trajan said, is coming off not just one rough season, but a few. What was it about this job that made you want to jump in right away when surely you could have waited a year, and if there were openings, you would have probably more than likely been involved in those discussions? But what about now in this team?
It was my conversations with Trajan to begin with. The rest of the guys, Magic was with him, JR was with him, and George David. Like the conversations we had Arn, and then obviously finally with Tom. Like, I had a great feeling that this organization was headed in the right direction and it was being led by the right people. For me, going through some of the things that I've gone through in the past, like the people that you work with being of a shared vision, a willingness to commit to one another, a willingness to partner with one another. I thought this group, as a whole, had a great vision, and then Tom has given every resource to go out and execute that vision. So I was extremely excited about that. And then obviously you study the team, and I took a deep dive as quickly as I could. Obviously experience of playing against them 4 times for so many years, but I knew the players well, and I believed in their ability. I believed in their talent. There is a steps process that we have to take. And we're really aware of that, and Trajan and I are united in that, aligned in that, and it just doesn't happen for anybody overnight, right? So we'll do the job of not skipping steps and helping our players reach their potential. But when you look at this group, there's some high-level, high-ceiling potential guys, and it's our responsibility to help them get there. And then again, you mentioned, the Tobiases of the world, the veteran guys that we're bringing in here to help those guys along, to show them, true professionalism. I think that gives an added boost to the group, and we can get to where we want to go.
JB Omari Sankofa with the Detroit Free Press. Good to see you and welcome. When you look at Cade Cunningham and you game plan against him, you know what type of player he is, but just what's your excitement to work with him, and what do you expect from him just based on what you've seen so far?
I think he's a stud. I don't think there's a lot that he can't do on the basketball floor with his size, his ability to see the floor, his ability to create shots. I think there's, defensively with his length and size, I think there's so many different things that we can do with him. So our focus is making him, one of the best two-way players in this league. And, having conversations with him, he's hungry. Obviously last year was difficult for everybody, himself included. He has a fire. He's a competitor. And he wants to be a part of what takes the Pistons to the next level. So the excitement that he brought, that helps raise my energy level. And I hope, and you'll see as the season goes by, like we'll just keep picking each other up. You know what I mean? Like there won't be tough times for anybody because somebody's always going to be there to pick him up. And I think, he's shown that leadership, that want and that will, and then throw his talent on top of it. And you've got a guy who's capable of being really special.
Keith Langley from Pistons.com. Your Cleveland team's established a defensive identity, I think, foremost, and a lot of coaches come in saying we want to be a top 10 defense. For this team, as young as they are, young teams usually struggle defensively. But do you see the ingredients for getting to a top 10 defense with this group?
Yeah, again, those are things that if you don't have a strong defensive foundation, your team is going to struggle to take the steps and to build in the direction that you want to go in. You can talk about offense all you want to, but when you look at the elite teams in this league, they have two-way players and guys who take pride in defending the basketball. If you can defend the basketball, you'll give yourself a chance of into games to win. So our focus will be to start defensively, building a great foundation. We have guys, individuals. Asar is one of those guys. Ron, I believe, is going to be another one of those guys who can be high-level, elite individual defenders. When you put guys like that in a great system where everybody's protecting one another, you got high-level intelligence, and I think we have that. You look at guys, again, who are switchable with your bigs. Like we had problems last year with Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren switching on our smalls and making them play ISO basketball, being able to keep them in front of them. So, being able to defensive rebound the basketball, like those are all the small things that can help you be the defensive team that we want to be. The will to do it is another thing because that's what you control. And, us trying to create the environment that we're looking for, there's two things that we can control. Are we the most selfless team on the floor? Are we the most competitive team on the floor, right? All those things lay hand in hand with being a good defensive team.
Hey, JB. Welcome to Detroit. My name is Corey Woods in line. You've coached young teams in your previous stops. Now you're another one. What can you take from those other teams that you can bring over here when you're trying to coach a young group that is trying to learn how to win?
Yeah, you got to make it fun. You're going to go through a long NBA season. You're together all the time. 2 o'clock in the morning, you get up off a plane, you see the same people. You're back in the gym at 8 o'clock in the morning, you see the same people. It can be cold, it can be rainy, it can be, whatever. But you have to put this building in a place where people want to come. And where people want to stay. Like, first of all, this is a fabulous facility, but the energy that the people have that are in this building every single day, that's going to make the difference for this team to start with. Guys are obviously more engaged when they're having a good time, when they're celebrating one another. Guys are more likely to do more, go the extra mile, and that's what we have to create here. And again, being around Trajan and his crew, they are positive people. Like, they're uplifting people. That's the spirit that they carry. Our staff that we're putting together will be the same, through the performance staff is, those are typically the first people that the players see when they come in the building. So, Trajan has gone out of his way to put together a performance staff that carries that same energy. So when guys walk into the building, they don't go and find the guy who's down or low energy and then they feel low energy. They walk into people who are carrying a great spirit. So I think that's the starting point. And then you got to teach. And that's one of the things is, again, we're putting a staff together. We're putting together a staff that's great, has great teachers. That can teach from the ground up, great fundamentals, small things from footwork to passing angles to hand positioning, things that may go unnoticed, but those are the things that impact winning the most.
Maybe Larry Leach from the Associated Press, welcome to town. How does this job feel different from the other opportunities you had, filling in for fired coaches? Now you're, a team believes in you, have a long-term deal. How does it feel different?
Well, all the guys that hired me believed in me. But, again, I think this is, a similar start what we were dealing with in Cleveland, where we were coming from. But, it's always, all of us are human, feels good to be wanted and sought after. And the fact that Trajan reached out and gave me the call and let me know that he believed in me right away, obviously had a huge part in me coming here and wanting to come here. If it was, 3-4 weeks and there was a bunch of guys that came in and turned it down and then reached back out, but I never felt that way. I know they had to go through the process, but he always made me feel confident that I could fit here and that he wanted to work and partner with me. So, that gave me even more juice. Obviously being out and not expecting this opportunity to happen. I was talking to my family about taking the year off and all the things that we were going to do. So, I had to make some tough choices. But Trajan gave me the opportunity and gave me belief that this was the right choice to make, not only for my professional career, but for my family as well.
JB, you guys were one of the successful teams in playing two bigs in Cleveland and Detroit. They tried it here too. Trajan's kind of added floor spacers and changed the dynamic of the roster a little bit. Was that just a product of the pieces you had, or is that something that you want to transfer here too, or is that part of the collaboration with some of the guys you guys brought in and figure out what pieces work?
Yeah, that's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to put the best units on the floor that we can. And we're always trying to work to find, 5-man units that can fill 48 minutes. Whatever our roster is, like, we play to that. And I think that's one of the things that where we've been able to have some success is we can adjust. We're not stuck in one way. So what we'll do is we'll do all the research from the games last year. We'll get our guys together on the floor. We'll get the numbers involved in all those things. We'll look and find the best lineups, and then we'll make guys go compete for opportunities. And that's what it comes down at the end of the day. If you want to build a competitive team, you can't just go and give handouts, right? People have to earn it. So we'll give guys the minutes that go out and earn it.
Vince Ellis, Pistons.com. This question is for Trajan. You may not have went through the process looking for experience, Coach, but I guess speak to the importance of experience when you're looking at when you fill this job.
Good question, Vince. I definitely think it was a factor. When we started the coaching process with our internal group, there was a lot of different characteristics that we looked at in the new coach that we wanted to hire. There's probably about 15 things that we listed, and experience definitely is one of them. You want somebody who can come in here and hit the ground running, and who's done this before, especially with a young team coming off of, like I said, a difficult season. Positivity was important, and when we started digging in to the different different coaches we were looking at, we felt experience was important. that the players needed to feel like the person coming in here knew what he was talking about. And I'm not saying that the other people didn't, but it is important to have that experience of leading a group, understanding the ability to communicate, connect with the players. And a lot of times it's hard to do that as a leader if you've never done it before. And we felt really, really confident with JB coming that he'd be able to do that with our group.
Rod Beard, Detroit News. JB, you're familiar with the roster from last year, but adding Tobias and Tim and Malik, just shooters and veteran guys in those key wing spots, how important is that to try to turn things around and just for roster construction too?
Well, you want to surround your guys that you're developing with people who make them better. And I think, with the young guys that we have, we're trying our best to put them in positions of success. And success, a lot of times, offensively in particular, starts with that space. So when you have a guy like Cade who has the wiggle that he has, can get to the paint and create, when you have the bigs that you have in Jalen and Isaiah, that can put pressure on the paint and those types of things, it's paramount that you have the proper spacing around them so that they can, see some success, gain confidence, and that's how they will continue to get better. But it's also important to have guys who have been through it and understand it. Like you look at, how far Tim Hardaway's gone, how far Tobias has gone, the playoff games that they've played. They have a clear understanding of who they are. And those guys knowing who they are, again, helps your other guys who are trying to develop and find their, ultimate position in this league. So it's extremely important that you surround them with people that can help them get better, not just from a basketball standpoint. Like all the research that we've done and that Trajan and his crew have done on these guys' professionalism, from a day-to-day, how do they eat, how do they, get in the weight room, their recovery, like all these small things that veteran players who've had a ton of success and played a lot of games, like Tobias plays a lot of games, right? So how do we get that and help that translate to our young guys? Because it is true, they respect their peers and veteran players. Like they have a ton of respect for those guys, and they're doing the work behind the scenes that we're not always a part of.
Kim Brown, WJ. Kim Brown, WJ. Being the son of a legendary coach, is there a Bickerstaff family philosophy on NBA basketball? And what was passed down to you that you deal with today as this is a core philosophy of the Bickerstaffs and going forward?
Tell the truth. As simple as that is, when you're having conversations with players, when you're having conversations with agents, front office, just being honest. And treating people with the same amount of respect that you want to be treated with. That's the way that we approach it. I watched my dad, have countless encounters where I was with him, obviously, when he was a little bit older as a coach, and I saw players that he coached before, time and time again, come up to him and say things like, wow, I didn't understand what you were doing at that point, but now that I'm older, I realize it, and I thank you for that. So if, as a coach, I can have that impact on people, that's what I'm looking to do. Because, to me, this isn't just about, pieces on a chess table, right? These are about forming great relationships and lasting relationships and people you grow with, win with. Like those are relationships that you have, 15, 20 years down the line. And to me, that's what this is all about.
Hey, welcome to Detroit. It's Brandon Dent, Woodward Sports. I just wanted to ask, what are some of the most important aspects of building a team identity or culture, especially with a young one like this?
The fun part about it is, you get to start here and mold it how you kind of see fit. And one of the things that we do as a coaching staff when we come into these new situations is we try to find ways to connect our team with its fan base. We know the history of the Detroit Pistons and the bad boys and the rough and rugged style that they like to play. And when they were at their best, with the Rasheed Wallace and Chauncey Billups crew, how great they were defensively, how physical they were, how they challenged people, how they competed. And to me, it seemed from the outside looking in that their fan base embraced that style of play. Obviously, the rules are a little bit different now, but I believe that the Detroit fans will love guys who compete their tails off. They'll love guys who are willing to sacrifice their body for the greater good of the team. They'll love guys who play selfless basketball, and it's not just about me, me, me. So as we do our work and research, we study a way to connect the team to the fan base, and I think that's where we start. And I think we have the pieces here to do that. We have some rough and rugged guys that don't mind mixing it up, guys that don't mind scrapping and can play with a grit. But then again, understand how playing selfless basketball impacts winning. And I think that's where we'll start. But what you'll see is, come February, come March, like you'll be able to turn on the TV and you'll be like, oh, that's Detroit Pistons basketball. And that's what we aim for.
JB, obviously different players, but just from coaching Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland, is there anything you learned from that or could take from that as you look at Cade and Jaden Ivey here and how they could fit together?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get the opportunity to be fortunate enough to work with elite basketball players, you have to take something and learn from them. Finding different ways to use them together, finding different ways to rotate them so that they get the opportunity to play to their strengths. That was one of the things where, we always tried to keep one of those guys on the floor. We allowed them to play, obviously, to close games together, to start games together, but you build your rotation that you always have one of those dynamic players on the floor. Again, I want to take firsthand notes and get the two of those guys together before I make any decisions or any declarations to you guys about how we'll use them and what we'll do with them. But again, believing in their talent and their skill set, there's going to be plenty of ways that we can use them so that they'll be difficult for opponents to match with.
JB, Maddie Kenny with the Detroit News. Just curious, obviously year one starts now with building relationships and getting the correct environment you want, but what does success look like for you in just your first season?
Improvement. A lot of people talk about development, and we throw that word around, but a lot of times, and one of the things us as coaches did for so long, it was development only impacted individuals. Where we aim to go is where the development impacts winning. And how do we make our young guys and all of our guys, because the guys, they never stop getting better, but how do we make them better winners? Obviously we'll work on ball handling, shooting, all those things, but how does what you do impact winning? And you'll see the plays time and time again where guys are growing, to make the winning play. And that's what our focus is on. But again, this is going to be a fun situation. And like I said, by the end of this, you'll look at the team and, night by night, and I'm sure there's going to be some ups and downs, but you'll see a style of play and you'll be able to recognize Pistons basketball.
JB, Dan Miller from Fox in Detroit. You've added some veterans that could obviously help you win some games. How do you kind of thread that needle between utilizing those guys, but also needing to play young players who need to develop, need to learn on the court?
You're going every single night to compete, and you're holding yourself to a standard. And you play the guys that live to that standard every day. Guys are going to make mistakes. We live with that. But are they the right kind of mistakes? Are they the mistake of, trying to make the extra pass? Are they the mistake of, defensively trying to over-rotate? Those types of things you live with. We talked about it before. If they're playing competitive and they're playing selfless, guys have the freedom to be the best versions of themselves and play to their strengths. If they're not, then they have to go take a seat. You've got veterans that can come in and fill that spot. So the conversations we've had with those veteran players, they're going to be well aware of what their opportunities and what their roles are and expectations of them are. But we'll treat everybody fairly. And if you're trying to hold yourself to a standard, you don't get to pick and choose when you live to that standard. It's something you have to do every day.
JB, what do you do for Fox? Do you have a timeline for this? I mean, is it an accelerated process? Because you said turn on the TV in February, you'll see Detroit Pistons basketball. So what's the timeline look like? What's the acceleration look like?
There's no timeline, and maybe Trajan can speak to this a little bit better, because every situation is different. Our aim, again, is just to continue to get better as the season goes on. But stylistically, you'll be able to see clearly what we're trying to do. And I think, I'm sure of that because our guys, are the quality of people and the high character that they'll buy into what we're trying to do. Wins and losses are something, that come on their own timeline. So we're not going to sit here and promise you this amount of wins. But we can promise you that our guys are going to compete their tails off and play selfless basketball and do the dirty things that it takes to win basketball games, and that'll be the Pistons brand.
JB, just staying with that, the franchise has been through a lot of changes over the past couple of years. The fan base has seen all those changes, and they're probably wondering what from you can you tell them is going to be different this time by you leading this group?
Again, we can speak on history, we can speak on experience, coming from a situation where, we went through this exact same process. Individuals, players got better, teams got better, the teams got better. Veteran players came in and had great years for us. We developed the identity of obviously being an elite defensive team. 2 years ago, we were better offensively. We were a top seven, offensive team. So I think the proof is there that we have the experience, and it's not just me. We're going to bring in a great staff of people that knows how to work with, young players, help them get better. They know great strategy. They'll put them in position to be successful. They'll build relationships with guys to understand the buttons that need to be pushed to help those guys be the best versions of themselves. And, it's something that, a lot of times on the outside you guys might not be able to see, but this building is going to be a special place. And if this building is a special place, you'll see the performance on the floor of guys going out and wanting to represent not only themselves, not only their teammates, but their organization and city to a high level. And then Trajan's got to keep getting us talent.
JB, Sean Mitchell with the Detroit Free Press. What do you see, think of Jaden Ivey when you study him, when you coach against him?
I think there's just a natural speed and athleticism that's hard to deal with in this league. The way the rules are set up, the way teams are spacing the floor, the tempo that people want to play at, he's going to be extremely difficult to guard. And I think one of the things, that he has the ability to do is just put a ton of foul pressure on people. And we know in this league, like, guys don't want to pick up fouls. So that's going to allow him, to get to the paint more, be able to create either layups for themselves, kick out threes. But to play modern NBA basketball, I think his tempo and his speed gives you an advantage to do that. One of the things that I'm looking forward to is seeing him catch the ball on the move. Right, so if we want to play with more tempo, being able to throw the ball to him at half court when he's got his hips square to the offensive end of the floor, and now he's playing with that speed and playing with that tempo, and then what that forces everybody else behind him to do, and again, the pressure that it puts on the defense. So I'm looking forward to working with him. Want to get time to sit with him more one-on-one. Obviously, this has happened quickly, and kind of figure out what his goals are too. And I think for me, that helps me put things into perspective and put it in place where now we put a plan together where I understand exactly who he is and what he's aiming to do. And then together we put a plan together to help him get there.
Trajan, go ahead. Okay. This is a slight diversion, but Asar was obviously not on the Summer League roster. Just how's he doing, and do you anticipate that he'll be good to go by training camp?
Yeah, thanks for the question. He's actually out on the court working out today. He just recently got cleared for all basketball activities. So in the spirit of what we'll do with all injuries with players coming back is we're not going to rush them back to, competitive basketball. So we'll start gearing them and having them ramp up right now, and he'll do that throughout the time in Vegas with our vets. But he won't participate. We just didn't want to throw him back in competitive basketball, but we're confident that he'll be ready to go come training camp in the fall.
I want to follow up with something JB said earlier, getting veterans who know how to train and be professionals. You guys added a lot of veterans who don't miss games. I don't know, is that intentional? Was that happenstance? Was that something when you evaluated this organization, something that stuck out to you about how often guys miss games and have for several years, or again, was it happenstance?
I don't think it was happenstance. I think it's always something that we look at. You want guys that are on the floor, love to play, but are also they can play. They play games, they don't miss. A lot of that some of it's luck, right? But some of it is also the durability of them, the time they put in as professionals on the front end, on the back end in terms of recovery. but it's not happenstance that we brought those guys in, that it's the importance to raise our younger guys so they can see those things day in and day out through a season, that the importance of playing in and out and playing with, maybe it's, some guys won't play 90%, some guys want to play at 100%, and to play 75 plus games, you're not going to be at 100%. Sometimes, most of the time, you're not going to be at 90. But we're bringing in guys that want to compete and fight through those small nicks and bruises and whatever occurs. But again, there's some luck that goes into it, but there's a lot of work that goes into being durable as well.
Trajan, it's been a whirlwind couple of weeks for you, and just assembling your front office, free agency, getting a coach in place now. How do you feel about where you are in the transformation and what you want to do?
JB and I talked about it today. We were just talking about our schedule in Vegas, kind of what we're going to do there with our staffs and intermixing that and having dinners and whatever that looks like. And I actually told him, I said, I'm going to have a dinner with our front office staff, because what we've accomplished here in the 6-7 weeks that we've been together, for me, really, I'm incredibly proud of. It was kind of my vision coming in here, and kind of what I talked to our staff about is there's going to be a lot that has to be accomplished over the next 4 weeks, and they had to believe and trust me and my vision and our staff's vision, and really come together and buy in to the things that we were trying to do. And sometimes intermixing leftover staff and then new staff coming together can be challenging, and it's pretty much been seamless with the group of people that have been here. So I'm super excited about the group that we have, and incredibly blessed that they've come together for the past 4 or 5 weeks. And to answer your question, very, very happy about what we've been able to accomplish in the time that I've been here.
All right. Thanks, guys.